Kurt Ratzlaff here with my buddy Kevin Klaus, and we're here to show you our failed attempt to cross from Santa Barbara to the Santa Cruz Islands. I thought I lost this video. It's a few years old already now. So what was our plan here?
Yeah, our original plan was to dock Friday night, and then we'd get up early the next morning, make the 20-mile voyage to the island. We'd have time to explore it a little bit before we had to go to bed, and then early the next morning, we'd make the voyage back.
Yeah, sounds like a reasonable plan. Nah, we never made it anywhere near the island. I arrived first with Mr. Wickham, which means I get to set him up all by myself. I gotta admit, it's pretty easy to set up 119 by yourself. It takes me about half an hour. The harbor ramp is tight and somewhat busy, but everyone was super courteous, so it wasn't a big problem. Here's a view of the harbor as I went to the harbor master to get my slip for the night. Mr. Wickham is only 19 feet long, so she was able to squeeze him in a fairly quiet spot in the back of the harbor, which is really nice. So, after that, all that was left to do was to grab dinner and wait for Kevin to arrive.
The next morning was clear, sunny, and not a hint of wind. But the forecast called for some later, so we set off as normal.
I sat on my glasses and broke the arm. We kept the dinghy in the truck overnight and went to grab it the next morning.
I want to loop this through the bow eye, but if you go forward, it puts it underwater.
So why don't you do it out of water?
We motored out of the harbor with our dinghy in tow and set off for Santa Cruz Island. After a couple miles, I went to hoist the mainsail and...
Wrong.
I'm sad to say, I've made this mistake more times than I'm willing to admit, but I end up wrapping the sail around the boom. I don't notice until after I've hoisted it, so I've got to pull the whole thing back down and rehoist the main, but it's an easy fix and up it goes.
Wasn't there supposed to be wind?
By 10 o'clock that morning, the ocean was a glassy, still, windless ocean. So we just had to keep motoring along. And that worked well, except for we had a problem. The 5 horsepower layer was consuming propane at a much higher rate than we expected. And after some calculations, we realized we were absolutely not going to have enough propane to motor to the island and back. After another hour, we were still getting no help from our sails. So we did the most sensible thing we can think of, which was to go back to the harbor and buy a lot more propane.
Or a fan.
It's actually just our luck that there's a West Marine right there in the harbor and a guest dock right in front.
Also just our luck that they were completely sold out of propane.
So we hatched Plan C. We couldn't leave Mr. Wickham at the dock due to time limits, but there's an open anchorage just outside the harbor. So we anchored Mr. Wickham, took the dinghy back to the launch ramp, put him in the truck, and then went to the next nearest propane source.
3 hours later.
Loaded with propane, we once again set off for the island. Still not a breath of wind, so we had to motor along just as before. After another hour, we got super bored and decided to try out dinghy surfing, which is super amazing, and it's basically just stand in the dinghy while it's being pulled along.
Wasn't as exciting as it sounds.
Finally, around 4 o'clock, the wind picks up, we get to shut off the motor. There's nothing to stop us now, right?
Kind of.
At this point, we're basically just cruising into the sunset, and after more calculations, we realized the sun would set an hour before we made it to the island. And neither of us really had the skill and wanted to attempt to find the anchorage and anchor at night. We just didn't think it was a good idea.
So we did the logical thing and went back to the anchorage outside the harbor for the night.
But neither of us died, so that's a plus.
That is a plus.
That night, there was a ton of bioluminescence.
Just throw it into my frame.
It's caused by dinoflagellates in the water.
Get it at all?
But the camera completely failed to pick it up.
No, we've all had the toaster Pop-Tarts, but I bet you've never barbecued your Pop-Tarts before. Look at that. Oh yeah, that's barbecue goodness right there.
I ate my barbecue Pop-Tart and Kevin packed.
The boat's a tad small.
Yeah, this trip is really what compelled me to sell Mr. Wickham. It's a great boat. Hunter makes a great sailboat, but this boat was just too small for trips like these. After this trip, I was really encouraged to upgrade just a little bit, and I saw a 24-foot fiber form. I bought it and named it Herbert.
Yeah, and we took Herbert down the Mississippi River a few years ago.
Yeah, dude, the Mississippi was really an experience. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Check out my other videos and subscribe if you want to see more.